Hello and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to ABS News Talk with yours truly, Chris Anu, coming to you as usual from the great state of Texas, Houston, Texas. Thank you for tuning in. I'd like to welcome all of you tuning in from across the continent of Africa, from Cairo to Cape Town, South Africa. That is where you will find ABS Africa Broadcasting Service all over Africa. On the social media, you will find us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and even Instagram too. You will find us there. It's a pleasure to be back here today. I am very apologetic for the late show, but whatever the case, when things are happening, it is difficult to rush to bring them without the ability to confirm them. And that is why sometimes we have to come late to you. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I will take you to Nigeria, to Tanzania, and then to La République du Cameroon. You will recall that October 12th, Cameroon held presidential elections. October 29, Tanzania also organized presidential elections. The fate of these two elections turned out to look alike, looking like a king and a queen who wants to stay in power. I will be bringing you my talking point on those two subjects. And then I will take you to the panel for today. And of course, as usual, the phone lines will be open for you to weigh in on the subject of the day. Please, thank you once more for tuning in. I will be right back. In a few seconds, ladies and gentlemen. So do not touch your remote. I'll be right back.
Target audience like never before. Advertising on ABS, you'll benefit from our extensive reach and dedicated viewership. We offer special advertising packages during primetime slots and popular shows. You'll also be featured on our social media platforms, reaching an even wider audience. Don't miss out on this opportunity. Take your business to the next level. Contact our advertising team at absafricatv@gmail.com. ABS can help you reach your target audience like never before. Advertising on ABS, you'll benefit from our extensive reach and dedicated viewership. We offer special advertising packages during primetime slots and popular shows. You'll also be featured on our social media platforms, reaching an even wider audience. Don't miss out on this opportunity. Take your business to the next level. Contact our advertising team at absafricatv@gmail.com. ABS can help you reach your target audience like never before. Advertising on ABS, you'll benefit from our extensive reach and dedicated viewership. We offer special advertising packages during primetime slots and popular shows. You'll also be featured on our social media platforms, reaching an even wider audience. Don't miss out on this opportunity. Take your business to the next level. Contact
Ladies and gentlemen, today we'll begin from Nigeria, where U.S. President Donald Trump is waging a war essentially against persecutors of Christians in that country. Trump is accusing the Nigerian administrations of ignoring attack in northern Nigeria for many years. I mean, we're talking about decades of attacks in northern Nigeria against Christians in that community. So I will be bringing you my monologue on that subject, and then I will bring in a very special guest who will be speaking to us or giving us some details about what is going on, what has been going on in Nigeria with Boko Haram, especially the attacks against Christians. The attack against Christians in Nigeria, ladies and gentlemen. Trump came out a day ago to viciously threaten an attack on Nigeria. If the government of Nigeria should not stand up to defend the Christian community in Nigeria, and the message from Trump was followed by that of his defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, also passing a stern warning to Nigeria to stand up, defend Christianity in Nigeria. I have instructed the Department of War to prepare for possible military action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians. So ran the blistering public charge from President Donald Trump, a line that lit a fuse under an already combustible debate about violence in Nigeria. Within hours, members of Trump's team echoed the tone. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and allied voices framed the matter as not merely a security question, but a mission to defend the persecuted faith. The message was blunt. America may act if Nigeria will not. The world listen, however divided. But let us be plain and direct here. The violence that has claimed so many Nigerian lives in recent decades, and which now fuels talk of foreign strikes by the U.S. government, is concentrated in the north of Nigeria. That region, dominated demographically by Muslim communities and bereft of the economic opportunities of the south, is the theater where Boko Haram and its offshoots have carved out territory, staged mass slaughter, burned villages and churches, and driven millions from their homes. The northeastern states of Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa have borne the brunt of an insurgency that has mutated from local militancy to an internationalized jihadist threat in Nigeria. To pretend otherwise is to deny geography and history. But history matters in full, not in fragments. It is true, and too often forgotten in fevered headlines, that long before the emergence of Boko Haram in Nigeria, northern Nigeria, the north was already a dangerous place for many Nigerian Christians who attempted to live, farm, trade, and build churches there. From their intercommunal clashes to earlier sectarian flame-ups, Christians who settled in several northern states of Nigeria sometimes found themselves isolated and vulnerable. Their small congregations an easy target in places where religion and politics braided together in brutal, lethal ways. The incendiary novelty of Boko Haram was not merely ideological. It amplified and industrialized patterns of violence that had a far longer pedigree. Evidence of this long durée of religiously tinged violence is scattered through reports and studies that predate the current insurgency. When Boko Haram arrived in force in northern Nigeria, everything, and I mean everything, got worse. What had been periodic violence became systematic terror, roadside massacres, church burnings, mass kidnappings, suicide bombings in markets and mosques alike. The group's tactics sought maximum terror, maximum casualty, and maximum spectacle. Towns were emptied, entire communities displaced, a generation of children robbed of schooling and hope. The casualty figures, the mass graves, the camps of the internally displaced. These are not abstractions. They are the aftermath of attacks that were vicious in method and catastrophic in consequence. Humanitarian reports and long-form studies record a campaign of violence that targeted civilians with ruthless efficiency, according to a report by the State Department, by the Department of Justice here in the U.S. So when a voice from the White House, Donald Trump, indicts the Nigerian state for failing to protect Christians, that rebuke contains a bitter kernel of truth. For decades, successive governments in Abuja have promised decisive action, but often delivered rhetoric instead of results. Military raids that push militants into new hideouts, security operations that displaced, not eliminate, fighters, and policing approaches that sometimes inflame local grievances. There is a catalogue of operational failures by the Nigerian government, intelligence breakdowns and capacity limits. From Maiduguri to remote borderlands, the lesson has been that eliminating a diffuse emergency or insurgency requires political will, local legitimacy, logistical patience, and crucially, transparent accountability. But here, ladies and gentlemen, is where any powerful monologue must refuse simple narratives. Another darker interpretation circulates widely among Nigerians and observers alike, that failure is not always mere incompetence. Some assert that it is deliberate, that elite bargains, patronage networks, and regional calculations have at times sheltered, tolerated, or even instrumentalized violent actors for political ends in Nigeria. These are grave charges, and they cannot be heard without care. It is true that Nigeria's politics is a dense web of patron-client relationships, and that suspicion about elite involvement in regional conflict is all and very much persistent. Analysts have noted how Nigerians often point to political failings and the complicity of corrupt networks as accelerants of violence. But allegation is not proof. Rumor is not evidence. Responsible commentary must hold both things simultaneously. We should listen to the grievances, and we should demand hard evidence. This is why they claim that powerful northern Nigerian figures like Muhammadu Buhari and Ibrahim Babangida, former head of state, have sponsored, sheltered, or winged at Boko Haram are so volatile. For some, the idea answers a cruel question. Why has the violence endured despite repeated promises? For others, it is a dangerous accusation that risks inflaming sectarian divisions even further. Publicly, when such links are made to former leaders, they are often met with categorical deniers. At other times, the assertions remain in the arena of rumor, recycled in political pamphlets, social media, and partisan speeches. The responsible position is to insist on investigation and transparency, not to substitute accusation for accountability. National healing cannot be built on unproven slanders on Facebook, social media, Instagram, you name the rest. If, however, President Trump or any foreign power truly intends to strike Boko Haram, we must be honest about what that would entail and what it would not. An airstrike against camps in the bush in Nigeria will be spectacular, but whether it eradicates the root of the menace is another question entirely. Terrorist groups are parasites of grievance and opportunity. They flourish where the state is absent, where poverty and injustice gnaw, where trust between communities and security institutions is shredded. You cannot bomb patronage out of existence. You cannot airstrike a political system into reform. If the mission excludes a strategy to dismantle the networks, political, economic, and the social networks that allow insurgents to regenerate, the gains will be fleeting at best. Military action without a clarity of political purpose and without Nigerian consent would risk sovereign breach, civilian harm, and renewed cycles of vengeance. So what must be done? What must be done in rhetoric that is uncompromising, but in practice that is sober? Number one, demand credible investigations into the allegations of collusion wherever they arise. Let courts and independent bodies follow the money that enters the hands of Boko Haram and the chains of command. Number two, insist that any external help be coordinated with Nigerian authorities and civil society so that sovereignty and local legitimacy are preserved. And lastly, pair security operations with tangible investments in governance, reconciliation, and livelihoods in northern Nigeria. That means rebuilding schools, restoring markets, and empowering local justice mechanisms so communities no longer have to choose between insurgents and an indifferent state. Finally, recognize this moral irony. The men and women in the south of Nigeria who cry out for protection do so because they have already seen the cost of complacency. They know that protecting lives means more than punitive strikes. It means building a state that serves every citizen with equal vigor. If foreign power is to be a partner, its interest should be in strengthening Nigeria's institutions, not supplanting them, in insisting on truth, not selective scapegoating. This is the road from rhetoric to result. Fierce in moral outrage, rigorous in evidence, and steady in the patient, often unglamorous work of rebuilding trust. If the stated goal is to end the killing of Christians and all civilians in Nigeria, then let us craft policies that cut the disease at its root, social root, its impunity and the networks that profit from chaos, rather than jeer a hollow spectacle of thunderous strikes, whose echoes will be measured in new graves. Only then will the promise of protection become a durable reality and not another chapter in a story of unavenged suffering. And that is the story, ladies and gentlemen, on the Nigeria. I am being joined by Bishop I.O. Morakinyo. I hope I got that pronunciation right. Bishop I.O. Morakinyo, who is a bishop originally from Nigeria, joining me right here in the studio in Houston to give us some insight into what happens in northern Nigeria. He is talking as somebody who has had a victim from his own family having to be killed by Boko Haram attacks recently. Bishop I.O., it's a pleasure to have you, sir. Can you hear me? All right, can you hear me?
I can hear you well.
All right, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you on, sir.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a pleasure being around with you this time around. You're welcome having me in your studio. God bless you.
All right, we are using two separate studios here, so don't be wondering. He is we being in the same studio, but he not being able to hear me and myself not being able to hear him because we are using two different rooms here in the studio. But thank you for joining me. Please tell me your experience. You have churches in Nigeria. You live here in Houston, Texas. Your own family members, if I'm correct. If I'm not correct, you correct me. Your own family members have had to be killed, assassinated in one of the raids by Boko Haram in the north. When you hear of President Trump sending out this warning to Nigeria, asking Nigeria to do something once and for all, else America will strike Nigeria. What is going on in your mind when you hear this warning from America?
Well, I believe it's the high time the world power concentrate on Nigeria issue, and I believe it's time for the America to step in to do the needful. It's not by going to war against them alone. It's by challenging the established truth that is known, that is fundamental in Nigeria, and the push for Islamization of Nigeria that is undergoing, that is going into ways of genocide. It's a grand plan by the Muslim cleric and those in power. I believe that the need to Islamitize Nigeria has been informed right from the day of IBB. And we all know that in Nigeria, but we see it escalating and growing gradually. And the world turned a blind eye to that. And that's what metamorphoses to these all things that we're seeing right now. Because one of the things is, it seems as if when we cried those days, as if we were just talking out of fallacy, we're just making a mole out of nothing. But the problem has been persistently growing gradually. I remember the days of Abiola, of old, the late Abiola in Nigeria. The cry then was, we don't want Muslim government. And I remember the story of Abiola burning out the boat, a shipload of Bible and all this stuff that went before himself encountered what they experienced. So it has been a gradual push from Nigeria to Islamitize the whole country. And by my own experience, I remember a conference I had with one of the government officials in South Africa when I organized a conference in South Africa. I remember I had a meeting of almost 4 hours with a government official who happens to be a Christian, and he said, listen, you guys didn't know what was coming. And all that we discussed is now becoming a reality in life. And having been part of this, I was in Nigeria when these things started growing momentum gradually. And I was in the PFM meeting where we were discussing issue of how to protect churches, because it was actually operating in Abuja. The first church bombing was not far from me in Abuja there, and where people's lives were wasted. And we expected the government to be proactive, but the government was just windows dressing the issue. They aren't facing the reality. I remember what we discussed in PFM then. We come up with understanding that we have to protect ourselves. And I've been having the experience of living in the state of Israel for a while. I spoke loud and clear in that meeting that if we don't fight for ourselves, no one will fight for you. And with what is going on right now, it's clarity that if nothing is done, there will be no churches safe in Nigeria. The problem is that we have this attitude that it's not me. Until it knocks my door, I won't say a word. I want to give credit to President Trump for speaking up. And I want to appreciate his bold heart, because somebody needs to challenge the establishment. The Nigerian society, the Nigerian overall is under a massive threat. And we're just looking at a little snowball of it coming our way. And it's not Nigeria, it's going to capitulate the whole West Africa if it's not dealt with in Nigeria family. Because one of the things they plan is that Nigeria is the biggest place that if they can capture Nigeria, the rest countries are open for them. And that is why, with my own experience, I believe the president has said the right thing. And I trusted that it will be able to effect a change. The mode and the formation is going to go through, I don't know. But there needs to be a nation that will stand for Christ. And I'm grateful that America is doing that right now. And I'm proud to be here.
I worked in Nigeria. I worked in Nigeria in the media in the early 90s. I think that was beginning 1994. And during those days, there was, I don't know whether it was a conspiracy or a real fact, that the Muslim leaders of Nigeria always wanted to project Nigeria as a Muslim state. And so it was a sort of competition between Muslims and Christians. You found Christian leaders standing up to defend Christianity, and Muslim leaders, political leaders, trying to defend Islam. I recall so well a battle that ensued in Lagos. If you go to Nigeria, visiting Nigeria and landing at Lagos Muritala Mohammed Airport, you find a big mosque at the entrance to the airport. You also find a Christian church. I think it is a non-denominational building, standing also at the entrance, bird at the entrance of that airport too. Now, this is the story of those two buildings. The Muslims were told, in fact, I learned this from the religious leaders then in Nigeria. The mosque was erected by Sani Abacha used to portray Nigeria as a Muslim state. I think at that same moment they joined the OIC, Organization of the Islamic something. Then it was Archbishop Benson Idahosa who stood up for the Christian community and told Abacha, you have given Muslims a mosque in that place. We want a church also at the entrance into that airport. The idea was that the Abacha and the Muslims, I suppose they were trying to do was, when you arrive in Nigeria as a guest, and the first thing you see out of the airport is a mosque, you immediately recognize Nigeria as a Muslim state. So the Christian community, led by Idahosa, immediately got that and went to him and said, you must give the CAN, Christian Association of Nigeria, land at that same airport at the entrance to build a Christian church, and that was done. But the history of Boko Haram isn't, I mean, the history of attack of Christians in Nigeria predates the time of Boko Haram. Am I wrong?
No, I just want to let you know the history of the violence in Nigeria doesn't start with the Boko Haram alone. It's a long history in the Nigerian system, and is systematically planted and controlled by those in power, because they got to listen to their clerics, and they obey and they work according to the leadings, the fatwas, and the laws of Islam. They tried to Islamatize Nigeria about 3 or 4 times. It wasn't possible easily. So it wasn't the Boko Haram issue that started this. And when you look at the issue of the Boko Haram, you will understand that before that there were some situations in Nigeria. Boko Haram was just a small sect that Obasanjo noticed that was growing out of hands, and they felt they could cope with. And one of the things they do is that they walk into charity, and you know, the way they live in the north is different from the way we live in they live in the south. I want to move to the north and see some few things, and it's everywhere right now in Nigeria anyway. So they do this issue of gift and all this stuff, and the education is for the privilege in the north. Meanwhile, in the south, everybody, the Christian side, believed that our education is necessity, and everybody must be given equal chance to have the right and privilege to go to school. But in the north, it wasn't that way. Goodluck came in and tried to address that, but it was thrown through the window because the mindset of our leader. If you're talking about Boko Haram, you got to talk about our leadership first. There is no willingness to control this malice. There is no willingness to deal with this. So Boko Haram came into existence as a sect, and its power through Iran. I know that. I have some story about that which I might not be able to mention on air. They powered it, or they do a lot of things. Money were invested into it. I can tell you that. I know sizable amount of money was pushed into this place. One of the things I loved what the Americans did with Iran by beating them down this season, because that's a factor that we're facing a lot of problem. And with this, I want you to understand, I think we're off here.
So I guess you are saying, what you are saying is the Nigerian community much appreciates what Donald Trump is trying to do, is it?
Yes, but I think we're off here. Can you check it? Okay, we're back.
You think what?
I think we're back now.
Oh, okay.
Good.
So you are saying that the Christian community is very much in support of what Donald Trump is doing?
Yes, I can give you 100% of that, because we needed help. And I told people we need to renegotiate this country. We need to sit down and reanalyze where we're going. Because the church cannot continue to bear the ground of a group of people that is financed by external forces who have a mandate to exterminate other religion, to get rid, especially the Christian. I grew up in this, and I understand that the actual reason, the purpose of Islam to them is that they must Islamatize the whole country. And I'm a bishop, and I will tell you a funny story. When I lost a sister, a close sister of mine in Cuba, the first lady that was stabbed, that I went into the mortuary to bring her body out because I was so mad. I called in the war press, I think about 24 of them in a hotel in Abuja. We sat there, we blew the whole thing out of proportion. And then I sat with the police, the commanding officer police there. We discussed. They took me to mortuary and brought the lady out because I said I wanted to see how she was killed. And I discovered that she was just preaching early in the morning in the Abuja, in the main city, the headquarters of Nigeria. She was preaching 5:30 a.m. and somebody has warned that a week before, or 2 weeks before, that was 2016. And 5:30 to 6 a.m., a man came out and drive dagger through below her chest. I know about that because I saw the car. And she was killed that way. And when we went to meet with the police, they said 4 people were killed in that week in that area. So there's a silent operation going on all over the country. The major one that is coming up, that they are getting more bold and emboldened every day. When I saw that, I remember the feedback that I got. Where I'm going is this. A cleric came back to me and said, you know, you guys in Abuja here, we're watching you, and you are not as powerful as the others. You can be paying zakat to us. You can be paying us some money so that we can protect you. And I looked at him, I said, no matter what it takes, I'm ready to fight it out. Why am I saying this? That the one we're seeing in the Northeast is just the beginning of the operation. The mindset is towards the whole country, to overrun the country and to by force Islamatize the country. And if nobody stands up to challenge the government that is that gave a favorable condition for them to thrive in that country, we are doomed.
So do you see the political will from the government of Nigeria now that President Trump is trying to intervene? Do you see the political way for the government of Nigeria to finally eradicate Boko Haram? And secondly, added to that, we have been told for years that Ibrahim Babangida, former head of state, Muhammadu Buhari of late, they are part sponsors of Boko Haram. What do you know of this?
Let me start from the sponsoring. Listen, it's an established rule within the Muslim community. They have this, the carrot and the sword in their hands. And they call the shot in the country. And they have their means to the resources of the nation. And they want to perpetuate themselves in power. And that is why we end up to Muslim government that with nobody able to talk. If this could happen in 1979, it could have caused a disaster in Nigeria. But because they thought the church is wicked to the point that they can do as they like. So if you say that some people in government are sponsoring this, I say yes. I might not have the fact, but you know, they might not come publicly and say we gave $1 billion. But when you go into a community, let me give you an analogy to what you just described right now. When Sani Abacha was the head of state, it decided the commonwealth of the nation, the symbol that will represent a nation that is 50-50, is the Islamatized, is like the picture of the mosque before the late Archbishop Benson Dauda stood up to him and said, this cannot be done. Now Benson Dauda is gone. We don't have people like him. We thank God for this great man of God. And nobody is able to challenge them. So if they can do that openly, can you imagine how much the percentage of funds being channeled to the Muslim community? And these funds are, nobody monitor them. And what happened is that they have people who gave money without knowing what it's going to be used for. And when they began to greet each other and talk about politics, talked about their religion, they believe they have to, the rule in Nigeria is your religion first, the political second, the third is your nationality. What should I be? Your nationality first, political second, your religion last. So that's why we mixed it up. Bible says if the foundation is wrong, what shall the righteous do? So that's why I said this before, that Nigerians need to reconsider their independence. They need to come up, it boils up to this understanding that we are being agitated for. There's a need to redraw the architectural structure of Nigeria. There's a need to understand if you're going to do either a unilateral state or federal system. So I want to say this partially, directly, indirectly. I believe the government is supporting it. And let me say this to you. Most of the people that were captured by the army were reintegrated without proper debriefing into the Nigerian force. And so therefore they become an inside agent for Boko Haram. And they become inside agent for the terrorists. So what we've learned in Nigeria is to be violent pace. Like when we were, it got to a time that we have to be contributing money for our own defense. And the last thing is this: they were weakening of the Christian community. We aren't unable to fight for ourselves. I do say that to people. I say if the government wanted it to be violent, they should allow the churches, they should allow the pastor, they should allow the church themselves to carry gun. And then we'll see where it goes. But thank God for the understanding of Mr. Trump, the President Trump rather. I fully support that. And I believe with this action, maybe justice can be served.
Do you think, other than the persecution of the Christians excuse that President Trump is giving, do you see any other motivation behind what he's trying to do in Nigeria? Because this is very rare for an American president to threaten direct assault on an African country. They normally ignore Africa, right?
Well, let me say this. A lot of people say that. I do say, when we were under colonial masters, we complained about the colonial master. Now we have the second generation colonial rulers. They aren't looking for the interests of the people. And when they talk about the American interest, I said there's no country that goes to war without an interest. And there's nobody that goes into anything, that invests into anything without having to expect a return. The first interest for America would be that there would be peace in that region. I know they cite so many examples of American involvement and all this stuff. I've listened to those arguments all over. And most of the time when I heard of it, I said the scenario, the situation differs. America is not saying it's going to be in war with Nigeria. What America is declaring is that I'm going to come to solve this issue. And if they have ulterior motive and interest, it's even better than what we're going to right now. Because Boko Haram have seized territory and mineral resources of Nigeria are cut away without proper deal. Can you just imagine an aircraft flying to Nigeria in far north and cuts away gold and all this stuff without proper inspection? Nigeria is just like a failed state. So we need help. I just need to say that. So I do not believe if it comes for anything, there's no country that goes into battle without expecting a return one way or the other.
So my last question is whether you see the political will within Nigeria's political leadership to try to assuage the wrath of Donald Trump by finally exterminating Boko Haram.
Boko Haram cannot be exterminated, I can tell you that. It's not possible. You have to change the mentality on the ground. If you killed one, you get 10 tomorrow because of the scenario on the ground and because of the indoctrination that goes inside the church. Inside the mosque. It's a consistent indoctrination that goes on and on and on and on. So you kill one set, you get another set coming. How many times have they killed their leaders and we kept on having them revolve in one way or the other? And the first thing is we should know that this is not an internal thing alone. We have an external factor that is controlling it as well. We have a Shia Muslim from the Iran and all these other factors that contributed towards this. So it's not something you deal with in Nigerian context and think it's over. As we're talking about, the other nations are facing the same thing around us. So this is the war problem. Nigeria is just facing the brunt right now, but it's a systemic plan by the Muslim towards the whole world. And Nigeria is at the forefront of the battle. And I believe that the president is taking the right action.
All right, Bishop, it's a pleasure having you, sir. We will continue discussion on this subject. I think it's tomorrow or Wednesday. I will be having another guest from London who was a former presidential candidate in Nigeria. I think that was 2019. Dr. Davidson Israel will be joining me from London to talk about Nigeria's political will at finally trying to resolve this Boko Haram menace in northern Nigeria. It's a pleasure having you, sir.
Thank you for having me. I'm grateful to be with you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be right back. And when I come back, I will take you to Tanzania and to Cameroon. Please don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.
ABS can help you reach your target audience like never before. Advertising on ABS, you'll benefit from our extensive reach and dedicated viewership. We offer special advertising packages during primetime slots and popular shows. You'll also be featured on our social media platforms, reaching an even wider audience. Don't miss out on this opportunity. Take your business to the next level. Contact our advertising team at absafricativ@gmail.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for staying put. At this moment, I am going to take you to Tanzania, where there have been protests, massive protests there, as in Cameroon, all having to do with the presidential elections of October 29 in Tanzania and elections of October 12 in La République du Cameroon. I have said in this monologue that I bring to you that I don't think Tanzanians went to the polls to elect a queen. I think they went to the polls to elect a president. And that is what it's supposed to be, but that apparently wasn't the case. When Samia Suluhu Hassan ascended to the presidency of Tanzania in March 2021, she carried promise and hope. Even Tunisians, not just Tanzanians, remarked that here was a woman of calm demeanor, with a modest background and long service, who might inaugurate a more open era for the country. Her composure was legendary, even before she took the top office. She was soft-spoken, deliberate, and thoughtful, where her predecessor had been brash and impulsive. In cabinet meetings, she was known for her patience and quiet persuasion, trait that stood in sharp contrast to the late John Magufuli's thunderous, confrontational style. Samia's modest background made her relatable to ordinary people, ordinary Tanzanians. Born in 1960 in Makunduchi, a small fishing and trading town on the island of Zanzibar, she rose not through wealth or family privilege, but through steady work and education. She studied public administration in Tanzania and later at the University of Manchester in the United Kingdom. Credentials earned through discipline, not political inheritance. Before entering politics, she spent years as a civil servant, working in government planning offices and women's development projects, quietly building a reputation for diligence and competence rather than spectacle. And her long service gave her an air of credibility few could deny. She had been a member of parliament, a minister in both the Zanzibar and Union governments, and ultimately vice president under Magufuli, Tanzania's first woman to hold that office. For over 2 decades, she had been part of the machinery of state, navigating its bureaucratic layers, surviving the male-dominated ruling party, and earning a reputation for loyalty and hard work. So when fate and the Constitution lifted her to the presidency after Magufuli's sudden death, many saw her as the right person for a much-needed national healing. An insider who understood the system, but whose temperament promised restraint, inclusion, and political reform. Indeed, She was the first female president of Tanzania and the first Tanzanian born in Zanzibar to occupy the union's top office. Her ascension seemed at once historic and potentially transformative too. She came to power under constitutionally tragic but also opportunistic circumstances. President John Pombe Magufuli died in office on March 17, 2021, officially of heart complications, though shadowed by speculation. Vice President Samia Suluhu was sworn in on March 19, 2021 to complete the second term of the president. For many Tanzanians fatigued by Magufuli's bulldozer-style combative, heavy-handed dismissive of dissent, her elevation offered the glimmer of a reset. She was seen as less confrontational, more inclusive, and more likely to open the space for political dialogue. At first, she gave signals of reform, lifting the 6-year ban imposed in 2016 by Magufuli on opposition rallies, declaring the right of political parties to hold meetings so long as permission was sought in advance under a 4 arrows agenda, that is, reconciliation, resilience, reforms, and rebuilding. Her advent offered an alternative to the old masculine authoritarianism. Hers was a promise of a model, a president who listens rather than a strong man who crushes. In those early days of her administration, Tanzanians said Samia's message spoke to hope. Citizens longed for governance that would respect pluralism, that would address inequalities, and that would rebuild trust between state and citizen. The fact she was a woman added symbolic weight, a break from the past, a chance for a new leadership ethos. Many expected her to steer Tanzania towards the kind of new African renaissance that emphasizes democracy, transparency, and accountability, not the impulsive one-man show that many had grown weary of. Samia pledged change, though not always in bold, sweeping terms. Her emphasis was on inclusion, on restoring respect for political opposition and civil society, on reconnecting with the international community, and on addressing the real problems of everyday Tanzanians, that is, jobs, infrastructure, education, and health care. And crucially, she made clear that Tanzania deserves leadership that is elected, not imposed by brute force, leadership that gives voice to its people, not treat them as subject to a monarch's decree. But that promise has, over the intervening years, eroded. The hopeful tone has given way to alarm. The apparatus of repression, long dormant but never extinct, has revived under her watch. Within the past years, the pattern has become unmistakable. Arrest of opposition leaders, disqualifications of credible political opponents, disappearances of critics and activists, and election process manipulation. What was once hopeful reform has turned into a creeping authoritarianism in Tanzania. Consider these examples. The opposition leader, Tundu Lissu, chair of the main opposition party called Chadema, was arrested in April this year and charged with treason, a non-bailable offense, ladies and gentlemen. His crime? He called for electoral reform in Tanzania. Samia's government's campaign to instill fear and suppress dissent is well documented in Tanzania. In the lead up to the October 29 elections, for example, she empowered authorities under her to intensify arbitrary arrests, enforce disappearances, and assaults on activists, all aimed at shrinking civic space. The Legal and Human Rights Center in Tanzania documented about 100 cases of abductions and forced disappearances between 2015 and February of this year, 2025. Activists report scores more in 2024 alone. The narrative of a president who would open up the political arena has collapsed into that of one who monitors, silences, excludes, and disappears her critics. And then came the election held last week. The official result? President Samia Suluhu Hassan declared winner with about 97.66% of the vote. The turnout was placed by the commission at nearly 87%. Yet opposition voices call the figures a mockery of democracy. How in this day and age does a leader legitimately win 98% of the vote? As one opposition spokesman put it, that is a slap in the people's face. It is impossible to square with free and fair competition in Tanzania. The very scenario suggests that this was not an election, but a coronation. In a genuinely competitive democracy, you simply do not see a popular leader sweeping nearly 100% of the vote unless the opposition is either utterly marginalized or the vote manipulated. The very statistical improbability signals rigging and intimidation. Indeed, the main opposition parties were all but sidelined. Chadema barred, its leader in detention. The second largest opposition party's candidate was also disqualified for alleged nomination irregularities. Only minor, irrelevant, unknown parties participated in the election. When the major rivals are locked up, the 98% outcome ceases to be the triumph of democracy and becomes the alibi of autocracy. What is most gloomy is the message this sends for the future of Tanzania. If in 2025 this system could produce 97 to 98% for the incumbent, what will happen in 2030? The trajectory is clear. The next election might yield a mere 90%. The one after that perhaps 85%. And by then, the machinery will be fully perfected. Opposition silenced, ballot box engineered, rivals irrelevant, and the incumbent effectively crowned the Queen of Tanzania rather than its president. The system is being trained to deliver monarchy by ballot, not by coup. The facade of multi-party contest remains why the substance is removed. The stakes are real. This is not the new African Renaissance Africans hope for. It is rather the entrenchment of one woman's role. One woman's role, and you find her there. Her Majesty, the Queen of Tanzania, shielded by spectacle, but hollowed by the disappearance of genuine choice. Tanzanians, not just in Uganda and Kenya, watching across the border, but in Dar es Salaam, Mwanza, and Zanzibar, are not yearning for a queen. They are not yearning for a queen. They are yearning for a president who stands before them as their servant. One who is genuinely chosen. One who governs by consent, pluralism, and accountability. A president who understands that legitimacy is not conferred by a commission certificate alone. It is earned in the marketplace of ideas, in the freedom to dissent, and in the fairness of the contest. Tanzanians want a president, not a queen. They want someone who leads by the will of the people, not someone who rules as though crowned. Tanzanians yearn not for a monarch cloaked in illusionary majesty, but for a servant of the republic, one who governs through consent, not decree. What Tanzanians want is a president, not a sovereign, a steward of democracy, not a custodian of dynasty. They seek a voice that echoes the will of the nation, not one that silences it under royal pretense. Tanzanians want a leader who answers to their hopes, not one who demands their submission. One who earns respect through service, not obedience through fear. In short, they are not subjects awaiting instructions from the throne. They are citizens deserving accountability from an elected president. The future of Tanzania, ladies and gentlemen, rests on choice, fairness, and genuine accountability. If what has played out is allowed to mature unchecked, then the promise of democratic renewal in Tanzania will be lost. Not just to Tanzania, but also to all of Africa that watches and hopes with bated breath. Samia Suluhu's rise from vice president to the presidency held promise of change. But that hope has been overshadowed by controlling drift. The 98% victory in the October 29 election in Tanzania is not a sign of popular enthusiasm so much as the culmination of a process that sidelined opposition, stifled dissent, and structured the outcome. If unchecked, this pattern will slide into the very monarchy of power that Tanzanians never asked for. They deserve a president whom they choose, not a queen who chooses them. And that is my monologue for Tanzania, ladies and gentlemen. I am being joined by the Honorable Sama Thomas joining me from Belgium, and also Metro Alex Lisenga joining from London. Metro Lisenga, if you can centralize your image and camera, please, that would be awesome. Dr. Emma Osung also should be joining me shortly. Let me start from you, of a legal mind, Metro Lisenga. You watch what is transpiring in Cameroon and in Tanzania. It's similar ball game. We see it everywhere. Elections are conducted. They are rigged. The people protest. They are picked up, locked up. Some are killed, and the nation is set ablaze. We thought Africa was moving from that era of dictatorship to a period where the people have command over their government. What is going on in Tanzania, sir?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chris. It's a pleasure to be on your program today, and my greetings to the people of the Cameroons and Africa. Yeah, Mr. Chris, to me, I'm not surprised what is happening in Africa because to me, I always believe what happened after the so-called independence was neo-colonialism. If you look at most African countries, what we have what is a presidential system and they concentrate power in the hands of few people. If you look at most Western countries, they have parliamentary system. It's the cabinet that rules. It's not the prime minister. You have ceremonial president. So to me, we have come to that stage that we need to have a parliamentary system in Africa. Because to me, the only reason is that as a parliamentarian, you owe your duty to the people, the constituents. So unlike the presidential system, they transfer what we call today presidential system, and they make sure that the president they concentrate powers in their hands. If you look in Africa, I'm sure where we have a little bit of democracy is in South Africa, and it's because of the Muzungu who are there. I believe if you are a prime minister in a parliamentary system, you can never disappear like Mr. Biya. We don't see him because you always have to come to parliament. If there's an issue that goes down, the opposition will ask you to come and explain, and you have to be there. So people hide behind this presidential system, and they concentrate power in their hands. If you look at it, most African countries, Tanzania or Cameroon, there's electoral manipulation. They arrest opposition. They disqualify opposition. There's repression. If you look at Amnesty International report on human rights, they will say there's violation of human rights. So we cannot be saying democracy is not just about election. Democracy is about transparency and accountability. In Tanzania, is it Samia Suluhu Hassan have concentrated power through the structure that is her party is having. So it's a dictatorial regime in Tanzania, Africa. They have made us to believe when you go and vote, it means it's democracy. President Obama made it clear to African leaders that democracy is not just election. If you cannot stand and talk to the people and tell them what you're doing, we have in Cameroon, there's a lot of scandals. We have been in Cameroon for more than 9 years. The Anglophones, British Southern Cameroonians, they have problems, but they don't debate it in parliament. They just sit quiet. I have been elected. You have to work for the interests of the people. I've asked some people, political actors who are in the CPDM government, what are you working for? You have to work for the interests of the people. Because you were elected doesn't mean that you could not be illegitimate. I live in UK, they have been prime minister, they keep on resigning. When they don't want you, you go. But in Africa, I've been elected. I look especially in the case of the Cameroons. You ask these people, what are their plans? They have elected you. Mr. Biya, we don't see him. Mr. Biya did not declare himself as a candidate. After that, we are not seeing him. I look at it. I think, do these people think we are fools in that country? And I believe, inside my gut feeling, my intuition, they are not going to get away with it. They are not, because the people are tired. Because Africans are rising up. We believe they are still serving the West. They are not working for the people. And I think personally, I'm sick of democracy. I believe we need even a benevolent despot like some of these Arab countries that they are developing their country. What is the essence of democracy when we are not economically free? Thank you.
Well, we hope we one day find the essence of democracy. I still think it is critical, it is important if we have to develop a state that respects especially human rights. Let me get to Dr. Emma Olson, who is joining from the state of Maryland. I'm sure you listened to my monologue on what I call Tanzanians looking for a president and not a queen. It is quite embarrassing what has turned out to be the presidency of this lady in Tanzania, because if you listen to her promises when she took over, people were excited all over Africa and in the rest of the world. People were like, wow, what a humble-looking lady, a mother of the nation. But look at what she's turned out to be, picking up her political opponents, locking them up, and Emma, please give us your take on what you are seeing emerging out of Tanzania. We will go to Cameroon later.
Thank you for having me, Chris. First, let me establish if you can hear me clearly.
I can hear you 5 on 5.
Okay. So the events in Tanzania are unfolding, but let's be clear, the playbook is evident. You can supplant what's currently going in Cameroon, and you have the same there. I think your disappointment in your monologue captures the sentiment, I'm sure, of Tanzanians. And I want to just pause here to say that while this, as you call her, Queen Samia, taking power again, I'm reminded by what the president of Botswana just said recently. He stated, I don't know if it's this week or last week, that if you're a president and you have served a term, I believe he said 10 years,
Right.
and you are in this of seeking another mandate, you have failed.
Right.
Now, if you are seeking a second, a third, a fourth mandate, and we'll come to Cameroon, under the conditions that you clearly stated in your monologue, I think we can clearly and safely say you're a double failure. So the pattern in Africa is clearly repeating itself like a bad movie. The question is, what is the African Union going to do about that? And in the case of Tanzania,
African Union send
I'm not sure.
messages.
That's right. That's the thing. It's an all boys club. In this case, with what you call Queen Samia amongst that all boys club. Now, Tanzania is slightly different from what we're dealing with in Central Africa. While you're calling her a queen, we have a monarch in Cameroon without the as they call it, the putative crown.
Yeah.
So we are faced with a scenario where I think citizens have to step up, as they're doing, as we see that currently with the younger generation, and saying we can't live under such repressive regimes. And as you would note, freedom is never given when people take it. It must come through revolution. Unfortunately, we have to say these things on earth. And at the core of revolution is a purifying force. And that force is always violent. No one is calling for violence, but freedom is never given. It can only be taken through a revolution. And revolutions are by nature violent. The trouble is, will these leaders see the sign and bow to the will of their people? I'll leave it at that, because on the scale from bad to worse, I think Tanzania stands at a better chance to redeem itself. Let me end there.
Well, thank you. Let's get to Sama Thomas. Give us your thoughts on this before I take both of you guys, all of you guys, to Cameroon. Sama, please.
Thank you, Comrade Chris. Let me say hi to Dr. Alson and also Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you.
Anyway, let me go to Tanzania. I think the person that is supposed to be blamed for what is going on in Tanzania today is late Julius Nyerere. A lot of people will be praising Julius Nyerere, but I will say all the problems of Tanzania today are as a making of Julius Nyerere, for he didn't open the political field in Tanzania to be clear for everybody to participate in. He includes it within his party. That is why since he left office, it had been his party that has been monopolizing the political field in Tanzania. And I'm ashamed and afraid at the same time that this lady coming from Zanzibar has done a disservice to Zanzibaris. For Zanzibar does not even constitute, if I'm not mistaken, Zanzibar does not constitute 10% of the total population of what we now call Tanzania. And if you have shown this color to the people of Tanzania, I think Tanganyika or Tanganyikans, who are the majority of Tanzania, will never let a Zanzibari to be the president of Tanzania again. Again, if the so-called queen was that popular, why are the streets of Tanzania full or filled with citizens protesting against her victory of 98%? Who are these people protesting? If this 98% voted for her, then we could have been having less than 2% on the street, which would constitute nothing. So these queens and kings in Africa should be very, very careful. And this lady, I wonder if we're ever going to have a woman of this nature in Africa turning herself to be a cruel dictator, getting men who are participating with her in what she calls a democracy locked up because of their own political point of view. It's a shame that Africa is going down this path. To the demonstrators in Tanzania and in La Republic of Cameroon, if we are going out to demonstrate against a dictator, we should gear our actions toward that institution. Attack members of that institution like parliamentarians, councillors, and that institution, governmental institutions. But do not go about looting the properties of citizens. Businessmen got nothing to do with the policies of these dictators, queens, and kings. We should target them where they are and not individuals who are even part of the demonstration. That was the looting I saw in Tanzania is wrong, like in La Republic. Had it been these people were targeting CPTA members and members of this lady's political party, I would have no problem with that. Even killing their families, I have no problem with that. But going to loot business people's shops, it is completely wrong. They've missed the point.
Sama, you make a really good point there, and I would like Emma and Alex to weigh in here. Can you imagine an Amazonian taking over leadership in Cameroon, like this woman from Zanzibar, the minority tribe, taking over in Tanzania and deciding to do this? Think about an Amazonian doing this. Can this happen? Would they allow it to happen? Dr. Metro Singer, you go first, please.
One of the things I will tell you clearly, before the presidential election in La République du Cameroun, a lot of people were saying we want an Anglophone candidate. I said, do you know something? Whether it's Prime Minister Diongute or all of them, the Anglophones at Tanganji, they have the same mentality like that people. If you put them there, nothing will change. It's not about whether you are an Anglophone. Anglophone is not a political opinion. If there are people who are Anglophones, if you put them in the same position, you behave like Mr. Biya of La République du Cameroun. I was telling them, stop saying that we need an Anglophone president. Because you come from Southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, doesn't mean it's you if you are in the CPDM. The people who are in the CPDM, the Ambazonians who are there, they have a political opinion of colonialism serving France and they don't talk. If you look at all of them, none of them won't tell you that we don't have a central bank, that the central bank of Cameroon is being run by France. None of you they won't tell you that the monetary policy of Cameroon is run by France. France determine your money supply, interest rate, devaluation. So they don't talk about it. So they are the same like Mr. Bia. So, but there are other people who have made it clear. I even believe there's a Nigeria, a Tanzania, or other people, we can still have the same political opinion without coming from the same country. That's why you have socialist party all over the world. They meet because they have the same political opinion. So I'm not surprised that you can have an Ambazonia in quotes, because Ambazonia is an ideology. I won't say it's people of British Southern Cameroon. There are people of British Southern Cameroon that they could be worse than Mr. Bia. You see what Mr. Molinex is saying at Tanganji. You cannot believe in my lifetime, I've never seen any ministers from Southern Cameroon talking like Mr. Tanganji. So it is possible that somebody who comes from British Southern Cameroon can behave like that. It is a matter of attitude. It's a matter of lack of morality. Most people in the chop people, their money, CPDM, they are morally bankrupt. They don't work for the interest of the country. They don't care about the people. We see people being killed every day in the Cameroons. They don't care. But this time, I'm sure they have met their match.
Well, let's hope they got their match. Dr. Emma, go on, please.
Oh, I want to make sure I'm still being heard.
Yes, you are on. We can hear you.
Thank you. For some reason, I'm not at my usual place, so my technical equipment here is a little faulty.
No, you are just fine. Go on.
Okay, so here's my take to that question, and I call it a provocative question. So let's be clear once and for good for the audience here, with all humility. The issues in Cameroon are neither linguistic, nor are they cultural anxiety. And the issues in La République du Cameroun are not necessarily problems, although they are at this current moment, problems of alternance from a French to an English head of state. Let's be clear what the problem is outside of the current context. The problem is the hyper-centralized Francophone proxy government that has relegated to itself the right to annex and assimilate the Southern Cameroonian, who had not only a distinct culture and heritage, but its own government that entered into a specific and very specified arrangement as to the form of state. Now, keep that aside, because I know this history is out there and it's well digested. So back to your question on whether, like in Tanzania, the almighty monarch without a crown could have given power to a woman. That's neither here nor there, because in the world that we live in today, we should raise our daughters to be equally as aspirant to any position as a man. So we can have that female a conversation at another time, but let's see what we are dealing with today. The La République of today is no different 60 years since its purported independence to even consider a woman or even another young person like our children. I say this because we can easily sidestep this conversation. It's a perpetual emergency. It has been a state ruled by decrees, a state sur le haute instruction, as they say, that's the French. It has been a country that has been ruled by proxy since its independence. We must be clear, is a state wholly lacking in the mechanisms for accountability, which has brought us to the context that the citizens of La République find themselves today, with a so-called constitutional council celebrating, working for one candidate, and handing him a mandate year in and year out.
Right.
Finally, It's a state that has been under the tyranny since 1968. And I want my children, because yes, the youths of Cameroon are at the age of my children, to understand that the king without a monarch, in the name of Biya, has been at the helm of La République since 1968.
Right.
57 years ago, of which 43 he has by proxy ruled Cameroon, and for the last several decades by someone else in his cabinet. So we cannot even entertain a more slightly mature democracy, do the calendar as in Tanzania, to the what I call banalized situation in La République du Cameroun. So when we talk about alternance in the context of Cameroon, we miss the point. And when we use the term bring in an Anglophone and make peace, no, Cameroon will not exercise on the basis of alternance. The situation currently, and if I may quickly do this, is that this country, the construct called La République du Cameroun, is barreling at the speed of light towards an internal implosion. It is at the brink of a failed state. It is chaotic, it's unpredictable, unstable, as we saw today with the ghost towns. Here is what is clearly underpinning that. The North currently may be seen as not under the rule of Etudi. That is probably moving towards that direction. It is a matter of time, Chris, as you said in your first piece on Nigeria, before some unholy alliances will be formed, i.e. with Boko Haram. And we don't know where that will take the country. And let's not forget 1982, the massacre by Etudi of the Shiroma camp, of which some is saying that Shiroma is the last man standing from that clique. So La République is a critical place. It's a near 10-year war in southern Cameroon that has drawn to a stalemate, what is called in the conflict world a frozen war. We now see Biya's tribal military balkanize itself, a military that sees anything position to the Biya entrenchment as hostile. So your question, founded and academic as it is really stepping the point. An Anglophone alternance will not save that country.
Well, let's wait and watch the history unfold. Please, you stay put. I will be right back. When I come back, I will bring you my talking point on the swearing in potential two candidates taking oath in La République du Cameroun. Please stay put. Don't go anywhere. I am going to be right back with that monologue.
ABS can help you reach your target audience like never before. Advertising on ABS, you'll benefit from our extensive reach and dedicated viewership. We offer special advertising packages during primetime slots and popular shows. You'll also be featured on our social media platforms, reaching an even wider audience. Don't miss out on this opportunity. Take your business to the next level. Contact our advertising team at absafricativ@gmail.com. ABS can help you reach your target audience like never before. Advertising on ABS, you'll benefit from our extensive reach and dedicated viewership. We offer special advertising packages during primetime slots and popular shows. You'll also be featured on our social media platforms, reaching an even wider audience. Don't miss out on this opportunity. Take your business to the next level. Contact our advertising team at absafricativ@gmail.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Issa Chiroma declared a 3-day ghost town in La République du Cameroun, grounding the entire territory. One news that we have not been able to confirm and to bring to you, ladies and gentlemen, is about the whereabouts of Issa Chiroma. I am literally seated here on a breaking story I cannot bring to you until I know the limits. I know the limits. I can take that story too. But there are concerns as I speak about the whereabouts of Issa Chiroma. There was some news over the weekend that there was an attempt to arrest him by Cameroon security forces. It has gone beyond that. Again, I have the story. My only problem breaking that story is to what limit can I go? So for that reason, I'm sitting on that story. By tomorrow, I should be able to come back and break this story. Or maybe if I get my sources calling me before this show is over, I would be able to break that that story. In the meantime, let me take you to my monologue on the two oaths, the swearing in of two presidential candidates in the La République du Cameroon, the possibility of that happening and what the consequences may be. They say history has a language of inevitabilities. Sometimes that language is a whisper, sometimes the row of boats on the pavement. Cameroon now sits between a whisper and a roar. Two competing claims to legitimacy. One backed by the state's instruments of cohesion and finance. The other buoyed by mass mobilization and declared popular victory. Would, if both proceed to formalize themselves in sworn oaths, transform the country from a brittle autocracy into an acute constitutional and political crisis with consequences that will ripple through households, markets, the military, and the map of La République du Cameroon itself. Let's start with the simplest arithmetic of power, ladies and gentlemen. Paul Biya controls the apparatus most durable in any post-colonial state in Africa. The courts that validate elections, the security forces that enforce order, and the public purse that buys loyalty and sustains patronage networks. Paul Biya controls all of this. Those are the levers that let a regime manage or crush and challenges. The Constitutional Council has already proclaimed Paul Biya the winner, and as reported, he is expected to be inaugurated for another 7 years term. The institutional endorsement is not trivial. It means state ministries, foreign embassies that deal with the incumbent, and many bureaucrats will, at least for now, recognize Biya as a legal president and perhaps take orders accordingly. At the same time, Issa Chiroma Bakari's claim is not a marginal protest. He commanded a campaign that drew broad support, and he has publicly refused to accept the official tally while calling for mass ghost town shutdowns that have already affected several cities in La République du Cameroon. That kind of popular mobilization, especially when it spreads to Douala and Yaoundé, the economic and political lungs of La République du Cameroon, can paralyze commerce, break supply chains, and convert political energy into a potent bargaining chip. Ghost towns are blunt instruments. They impose cost on the state and on elites who grow impatient with continued instability. African news outlets and international wires report organized shutdowns, initial closures of markets and schools, and rising fears among merchants and residents. So, what happens? What happens if both men, Biya and Chiroma, swear themselves in on different days and in different places? The short answer is dual sovereignty. Dual sovereignty. The longer answer, functional fragmentation. Legally, the state under Biya would claim continuity. Practically, Chiroma's camp would claim a rival center of legitimacy that commands allegiance among sectors of the public, certain political parties, parts of civil society, and possibly elements within the security forces. Dual claims create a practical dilemma. Ministries and governors will be forced to choose or to equivocate. Foreign governments will split their responses. Some will publicly endorse the Constitutional Council to preserve diplomatic relations. Others may urge, waiting to see who consolidates authority on the ground. That ambiguous international posture will matter, but it will not by itself determine the outcome. For Paul Biya, the immediate effect would be a deepening of the legitimacy crisis. An inauguration that coincides with a rival swearing in would trip a state ceremony of the symbolic unity it once conveyed. Instead of demonstrating the normalcy of transfer or continuation of power, it would expose the presidency as contested, a banner whose colors are accepted by the courthouse but challenged by the street. If the security forces remain cohesive and loyal to the chain of command it holds, Biya's side may retain physical control of key infrastructure. That means the government, radio and television, central banks, customs, and can even attempt to govern by force and by decree. But domination by force is expensive in principle and in practice. It raises the risk of armed defections, insurgent splintering within the military, and long-term delegitimization that invites sanctions and financial isolation. Reuters and other outlets have documented both the state's heavy-handed responses to protests and the eruption of violence in port cities like Douala, Kribi, and the rest. Evidence that cohesion will carry a real human and political cost. For Issa Chiroma, taking an oath without clear territorial control or visible protection elevates him to a symbolic presidency that could either catalyze a broader uprising or leave him exposed to rapid repression. His strength is the population's anger and the non-violent tactic of shutting down life. His vulnerability is the state's monopoly on heavy weapons and detention. Importantly, this kind of parallel claim often depends on three variables. Number one, the endurance of popular mobilization. Will citizens obey ghost towns long enough? That is the question. Number two, the loyalty of the security apparatus. Do segments of the army or the police defect or split? And number three, the cohesion of elite support. Will business and local notables begin to withdraw financial backing from the regime? Early signs: markets closing, migrants leaving the cities, food prices spiking suggests the protests are already imposing costs that may erode confidence in Paul Biya's regime ability to maintain normalcy. What this mix means for Cameroonians, ladies and gentlemen, in the immediate future is bleak, but not predetermined. In the coming days, expect city life to equivocate between paralysis and violence. Supply lines that feed urban markets are vulnerable. If roadblocks, fear of arrests, and targeted attacks continue, food and fuel shortages will grow. Businesses will hold or raise prices, which in turn erodes the standard of living and pushes the middle class to choose sides or to flee. International investors and aid agencies will pause operations. Social trust, already frayed by years of conflict in the Amazonian territories and by perceptions of elite capture in Francophone regions, will fray further. Media coverage of recent clashes and the state crackdown already shows fatalities and mass arrests. That pattern, if it continues, risks accelerating a humanitarian emergency. A crucial layer to this moment is the Amazonian question. The Amazonian question, ladies and gentlemen. The Anglophone conflict, as they call it, the War of Amazonia declared since 2017, has been a festering wound for a decade now, with thousands killed, hundreds of thousands displaced, and a deep distrust between English-speaking regions and the central state. For Amazonian fighters and political organizers, the current crisis in La République du Cameroon is both an opportunity and a test. On one hand, the weakening of central authority in Yaoundé could allow Amazonian fighters to deepen territorial control in the northern and southern zones of the territory. They could exploit the distraction to consolidate checkpoints, tax routes, and deny La République du Cameroon easy access. On the other hand, any broader national mobilization that centers Francophone grievances might sideline the Amazonian agenda unless Amazonian leaders manage to insert themselves as indispensable actors. For example, by disrupting supply lines or by declaring neutrality that pressures the regime. Amazonian leaders and sympathizers have already shown distrust of urban Francophone-led movements and have repeatedly insisted on their own self-determination. The current upheaval may therefore re-entrench secessionist lines, or worse, set the stage for a multi-front conflict in which the capital's crisis and the Amazonian war fit each other. Who will the people embrace? Who will Cameroonians embrace? Popular allegiance is not monolithic. Urban workers, students, and the politically active middle class, especially younger Cameroonians, disillusioned with decades of stagnation, they are likely to gravitate towards Issa Chiroma's narrative if it continues to promise change and if ghost towns demonstrate a collective efficacy. Conversely, rural populations that depend on state salaries, pensioners, and those embedded in patronage networks may stick with the incumbent regime, especially where cohesion or economic dependence is immediate. The Ambazonian population has its own calculus. Many Ambazonians will likely view the collapse of Paul Biya's legitimacy with cautious hope. But they will also measure any new political formation against their demand for self-determination. In short, the street embrace will be geographically and demographically fractured. International and diasporic opinion will probably back Isaac Chiroma rhetorically, but diplomatically, recognition is a cautious measure-by-measure process. The risks are severe. A drawn-out standoff invites militarization, curfews, mass detentions, targeted assassinations, and localized insurgencies. It also invites fragmentation of the state, not immediately into separate countries, but into zones of contested authority. That fragmentation compounds humanitarian risk. Internally displaced people will multiply. Aid corridors will be contested, and lawlessness will spike in ungoverned pockets. The economy will contract, and social services will collapse where governance is weakest. The international community's response matters here. It must be swift, unified sanctions, or meditated negotiation could restrain violence. Fractured or mutual response will embolden repression, that is, embolden the regime of Paul Biya. But the crisis also contains pathways to renewal. If the dual oath scenario forces both camps to the bargaining table with neutral mediation, guarantees for the safety of protesters, accountability for violence, and a roadmap for electoral reform, Cameroon could emerge with a renegotiated social contract. That outcome requires credible pressure, not from Ambazonians, from Francophones, La République citizens, persistent non-violent civic action, fractures within security forces that favor restraint and external actors prepared to leverage diplomatic and economic tools towards compromise rather than zero-sum victory. The Ambazonian grievance must be central to any genuine settlement. Sidelining Ambazonia again will only stir up another circle of conflict. There is no simple counsel here. For ordinary Cameroonians, the immediate task is survival, securing food, protecting families, and avoiding the flashpoints of violence. For political actors, the stakes are existential. A miscalculation, that is, on either side, Paul Biya or Isaac Chiroma, could plunge the country into prolonged civil conflict. A shrewd combination of mass mobilization and negotiation might open a pathway from decades of frozen repression. For the state, for La République du Cameroun, the preservation of power through force will exact a long-term price in legitimacy and development. For Ambazonia, this is a moment to insist that any national conversation includes the political future of the Ambazonian territories, or to prepare for renewed fighting if the underlying injustices are ignored. In the end, The country faces a binary that marks many shades between its poles: cohesion versus consent, continuity versus change, centralization versus recognition of diversity. Whether Bia's court-validated oath translate into durable governance, or whether Issa Chiroma's Mars-back inauguration catalyzes an unstoppable shift, will depend less on single ceremonies and more on the resilience of institutions, the choices of soldiers and magistrates, and the patience of a population already pushed beyond endurance. The near future will be a contest, not simply of speeches and ceremonies, but of which actors can impose order without destroying the fragile social tissue that still binds Cameroon together. That is, with the exception of Ambazonia, of course. If that tissue tears up, rebuilding it will demand more than new leaders. It will demand a new legitimacy rooted in justice, in inclusion, and in truth. And that is the monologue, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Emma, let me get back to you. Looking at these two scenarios of oath-taking for Paul Biya and Issa Chiroma, we are learning that Biya will officially be sworn in on November 6th, that is 3 days from today. And I must also say that Chiroma is being planned for sworn in one of these days, despite the security situation in which he finds himself. Emma, what do you make of these two scenarios?
Oh, wow. That was a lengthy, in-depth monologue. I'm trying to still wrap my head around it. Dual presidency, but you missed one thing. The construct of Cameroon, you might as well add the presidencies in the Ambazonia context, correct?
Yeah, right.
So I don't know whether to say triple, quadruple. We have to make some lightness out of the mess that we find ourselves in. But the underlying factors are very serious here. I think you laid out your talking points very well. There's the issue of legitimacy. There are issues of recognition. There are issues of territory and how much is controlled. In my own diatribe earlier, I said, we are staring down a scenario where the North may be completely ungovernable at some point.
Right.
So in terms of territory, you might say that Cameroon is essentially a fractured piece of real estate on the continent of Africa. But let's step back a moment here. La République citizens overwhelmingly voted for their own version of a gangster, in the words of Becky Enonchong. And that person is Issa. Now, I want to say this, and I may be wrong, that they did not vote Chiroma because they loved him. As they call him, their own better version of a gangster. That vote from those young people who overwhelmingly went to the polls was like a symbol, emblematic of their hopes for an end of an era. He is the symbol to end a system that has been punitive, that has been deadly, that has been decadent for years. Thank you. That's why, as I say, I side with Becky Enonchong, who says he's a form of gangster. So people went into this knowing what they're getting. But coming back to your question, I think we are where we are right now. There's no painting this picture differently. You have the Bulu Betty Fang having the masterminds behind President Biya, holding on to what is essentially the South. If Shiroma has not been kidnapped, as some rumors are going, or is in hiding, and he has his loyal armies behind him, let's not forget that in the fight against Boko Haram, a lot of young Northeast inscribed into the military. So there is some thought that a lot of these young military types are by nature going to side with their countryman. So we can clearly state that Shiroma is going to have some territorial control at some point and fight it out. If one had a crystal ball, I'll sit here and tell you that the concept of a dual presidency has some staying power, but we don't know. We don't know for a whole number of reasons, because the situation is dynamic. And I want to just end my own point here by saying that the real threat to peace here are the Biya mines, without fear, favor, or persecution. They are currently the real threats to peace in the Gulf of Guinea. And as a personal plea to our brothers who by far are from this place that is traditionally referred to as the Anglophones. Here I'm referring to the likes of the Philomene Young, the Archery Kilos, the Bios, the John Gutes, and the one that my brother from Britain referred to as the Molinet. You are standing on a Titanic, guys and girls. The lifeboats are being lowered. Are you going to step into it? Or are you going to allow our children to have a chance and not devolve into another 30 years of war, as we've seen in this DRC and parts of Congo? Please have a heart. I'll stop there.
Comrade Sama Thomas, I'd like you to weigh in here and look at the scenario where Paul Biya is sworn in, Issa Chiroma is sworn in. Biya has the money, the military, the banks, of course. Chiroma has the people, a very loyal set of people. Now you also have the place of the international community. Where do you see them navigating to? As of now, we know that not even the French have sent congratulatory messages to Paul Biya. It is assumed that if Chiroma were to do so, they will always slowly but surely be endorsing him out there. What is your take on this?
I will gamble with Chiroma if Chiroma would will do his oath taking first. Chiroma must not make that mistake of allowing Biya to be installed or do that oath taking before Chiroma. He must do it before Biya and test the waters to see where the diplomatic world is going to throw its weight. Even if he does that and the diplomatic world fails to throw his weight or its weight behind Chiroma, we will now see where the people of La Republic will lean to. We will now see where Chiroma's declarations will carry him to. That is what is going to be a game changer in La Republic at the moment. If Chiroma declares himself, I am the president, and take that oath of office, what is going to happen in La Republic is that Douala, Bafoussam, and the Grand Nord will swing to the streets of La Republic in jubilation. The Fang Republic that Biya and his gang were preparing since 1992 might just be given to them as such to take the Fang Republic and go with, while Chiroma and the dwellers and the Bamilikis from, I don't know if they will call it the country of Osman Danfodio now, or they'll call it whatever name they give it. That is going to be their problem. But let me also pass this message to Chiruma about the Southern Cameroon, because all of them are being the political liars that they are, have been gambling with the question of the Southern Cameroons. I followed an interview. I don't know if it's an interview or a speech from Chiruma this evening before joining the program. That Chiruma was saying that the people of the Southern Cameroons voted to join La République Cameroon. Lying. Was making that speech in French, but I could follow it a bit. Let me invite the citizens of La République Cameroon. They should go to the internet, Google the two alternatives and read for yourself. Don't get these liars who are lying every day, lie to you about the people of Southern Cameroons. The Southern Cameroons has never been part of La République Cameroon. It has never been part of Nigeria that they were asking us to go and join Nigeria or join La République du Cameroon. We were going to partner with La République du Cameroon and not join La République du Cameroon. That is what the two alternatives spelled out. So, what am I saying here? Chiruma should fight for his people. Either they get rid of Biya, or they create the state of Osman Danfodio. If the people of La Republic or the people of Osman Danfodio with that of Omyobe will stand up to say we voted for Chiruma and we are going to defend that vote, whether supported by the diplomatic world or the international community or not, that is our president. We are going to stand by him, defend him. That is when that new nation of Osman Danfodio will be created, and the Fangbulu Beti nation that they've been struggling to create in La République Cameroon, they will now go their way, and the Southern Cameroons will go its way. Let us part our ways now, peacefully, without any squabble.
Maitre Lissinger, your thoughts there, please.
Well, to me, I must start by saying that the Cameroons we have already the characteristics of a failed state, loss of territorial control, a breakdown in law and order, high crime rates, civil violence, internal conflict, inability to provide basic security, government that's ineffective. We already have that in Cameroon. Those are the characteristics of a failed state. What I'm saying, dual president, I remember my good friend, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, some years ago, I met him in London. Take note, he declared himself in January 2018 as the people's president. It was mainly symbolic. He was protesting against the election without taking into consideration that I'm supporting La République. They will look at it like that. You don't have any legal authority to do that. It will be usurpation of power, potential criminal charges for Mr. Chiruma, and how do you enforce mechanism when the institutions are not with you? But at the end of the day, when we talk, to be honest, I look at Mr. Biya like a window dressing president because he's a French poodle, he's a French puppet. France knows what they are doing. Mr. Biya once told us, when Yaoundé is breathing, Cameroon is okay. So we can do whatever we want to do. We have seen what have been happening in British Southern Cameroon for almost 9 years now. They don't care. So anything can be going on to the north too. They don't care. And when you talk, the people who are running Cameroon, it's not Mr. Biya, it's transnational corporation. All these businesses. If you go around, you Google British companies that are there, Savannah Energy, Coast Code, all of them, French companies, they are happy with Mr. Biya. All these foreign countries, especially the West, they are happy with Mr. Biya. Let me tell you the truth. Normally, look at Biden. Biden was how old? They complain about his age. Mr. Bia, 92. None of them, they are not talking. I'm not even talking about government or president or minister. Just these single powerful people. None of them, they are not talking. They are just watching. They don't see Mr. Bia. They present Mr. Bia to us via French ambassador or a diplomat who is going to say goodbye or welcoming people. We know the people who are ruling the Cameroon are the French. At the end of the day, I sit here, what I have been thinking for years upon years. I knew this day will come when La Republic will become ungovernable. And I was thinking about the Somaliland situation. Because to me, I've never believed, as Mr. Sama Thomas said there, that Chiruma said that we join them. I don't believe Chiruma can give up something. I believe we, the people of Southern Cameroon, we can take our own destiny. And while they're focusing to be fighting each other, it's a time to close the Mongo Bridge. Somebody told me now that people have to travel from Bamenda to Manfred, they don't go through which road. That's the beginning of the event to me, because insofar we stay with these people, whether they say federalism, it will never work, because France don't want it. They want centralization in order for them to continue taking the resources. We are still that Rio dos Cameros, Portuguese slave plantation. That's what we are. Because if you question we look at what is happening in the Cameroons. We have ocean, but we cannot drink water. And to me, we have a distinguished characteristic. And I told this one of my good friend, Mr. Elvis Ngolen. I was asking him, what is difficult? You have your institution, ENAM from France, ENS from France, Gendarmerie from France, France CFA from France, all those things. Why must you be imposing it on us? Scotland and England came together 300 years ago in 1707. They had different parliaments. They said, let's come together and have the same political entity. They came together. After more than 300 years, some Scottish people said, no, we are not happy. What happened? They gave them their parliament back. So some people are still there and they're fighting. One day Scotland will go. So I don't know why people want to keep British Southern Cameroon when they don't like it. Because to me, they don't like us. In Cameroon, there's a glass ceiling. They have to appoint the Anglophones. They were proud to say they have given us an Anglophone, a minister of territorial administration, as if it's the minister for Anglophones. So to be honest to me, I see no way that will remain with La Republique. And I believe it will happen, maybe through what happened between Somaliland and Somalia. I'm not waiting for Chiruma to come and give us Southern Cameroon. I believe when their problems start, we can just put a barrier. We should be molding blocks to put barriers through that place. That's what I say. Thank you.
I listened to an audio message, I think it was this morning, made by Mike Fusi, and he made a point that I thought was very relevant. You find the army, part of the Northern Army, favoring or shifting towards Issa Chiroma. Then you look at down our own army, the police, the gendarmes, the military, Ambazonians of origin, by origin. You don't see them thinking the same strategically as the military from the north. Shouldn't Ambazonian soldiers, the police, the army, the gendarme in the Republic du Cameroon begin at this moment to think strategically what they can do for their own country? Oh, Dr. Emma, you come in there.
Interesting. So many things come to my mind. And the very first thing I can think of is, you're right in that one thing that we have seen in the North is the restraint by the military, La Republique's military, to turn open fire on peaceful protesters. And even to the extent on protesters that are destroying properties of people, just local civilians. That tells you something. And the only thing, without delving too much into the psychology of a hyper diverse country, is that there is more solidarity in the homogeneous North, if you can think of it as a homogeneous North. If you come down to our area, we are a little more diverse in that sense, and we have succumbed under 60 years of oppression to a 2D, such that our young sons and daughters in the military could find themselves deployed and they're turning their guns on their own brothers and sisters. That's lamentable. They took an oath, but that oath is not to kill innocent civilians. So it's a dynamic situation in Cameroon, as I say, chaotic, unpredictable, unstable. What the military will do at this point is unknown, but the signs are clear that there is division. And we are hoping, as my brother has said earlier on there, that on the side of Southern Cameroons, there should be some real strategic thinking going on and plans in place. The question is whether that's happening. Now, that part of the country can take a stand, watch, and see. But that's not the case, because war generally does not confine itself to a particular area. So there's some work to be done by those who consider themselves the Ambazonian leaders. Now, let me make one final point. Shiroma said that I am one of you. I am just like you. I'm paraphrasing. I was jailed like some of you. He went on to apologize that he recognized the harm that his regime, when he was one of Biya's mastermind, did to Southern Ambazonians. Now, one could look at that political expediency. But as my other brother also opined, we will take someone who tends towards recognizing the harms done, because that's the beginning of accountability, and work with that person. But the question now we have, as we're dealing with, is that the rest of the mind that he worked with are willing to die with the Titanic, as I say.
Yeah.
And we are left with a scenario where the future of whether it's Southern Cameroons, whether it's the North, whether it's the center, is certainly not holding at this point. And one final thing. The end of an era, the Biya era, must occur. The people in Republic du Cameroon will certainly have failed generations to come if they lose their desire for freedom. They won't gain it. The moment is now. Shiroma or not, the moment is now.
Absolutely. The moment is now in talking about Ambazonians thinking strategically, not just Ambazonian military in La République du Cameroon. I think it is incumbent upon us Ambazonians, both at home in the diaspora, to start thinking also very strategically. I think I see a very critical need for Ambazonians on the ground to use this opportunity to come up with a conference to discuss among themselves and strategize how they can benefit from this situation in La République du Cameroon. Here in the diaspora, I'm calling for a town hall, an all-Ambazonian town hall on Saturday, this coming Saturday, November the 7th. We're not going to speak to you. We're not going to tell you anything. We want to hear from you what you think Ambazonians, both at home and in the diaspora, should be doing at this moment, what they should be planning at this moment, who should be doing what at this moment. And I really hope that everybody out there will show up for that town hall on Saturday. It will only last for 1.5 hours, starting at 10 a.m. But Samuel Thomas, let's get back to you on this subject. It's a critical moment. We have seen this time coming for at least 5 years. At least 5 years. And unfortunately, I cannot sit here and say how prepared we are. What would you say, sir? Samuel Thomas. Oh, he's frozen. All right. Metro Lissinger, let me pass it over to you. Look at the Ambazonian's picture in generalities. And, okay, Sama, did you hear the question?
Yes.
Go on, please.
Let me slice back to 1997. In 1997, I met Colonel Anaga, sent by the SYL. We were pleading with Colonel Anaga that you were the guy who trained Babangida, Abacha, and a host of others. Please, can you plead with these guys to find us a space in Nigeria to train and come back for these guys? What did Colonel Anaga told me? He said, if he wants to remove Mr. Bia, he will need only 50 boys to remove Mr. Bia. I said, no, we are not fighting to remove Mr. Bia. We are talking here about the Southern Cameroons. We do not have any problem. Mr. Bia, let Mr. Bia be there. That is not our problem. We are talking here about the Southern Cameroons. Colonel Anaga refused. About 10 years after, Colonel Anaga made a statement, and I quote, when I was in the Nigerian army, I was a stateless person. I returned back to the Cameroon army. I was a stateless army. End of quote. Anaga refused during that day, during that time, to ask his genius in the Nigerian army to help him because he thought he could still be rewarded by being given a post or maybe raised to the rank of a general in La Republic Cameroon. So to do that, he must betray his own. That is why all Southern Cameroonians in La Republic military, when they are sent to the Southern Cameroons, they are coming there to kill their own brothers and sisters just because they want to be promoted, not knowing that they will never be appreciated in that army or in that country like a full-fledged citizen of that country. Where are we? Where is Yewo Ivor? Yewo Ivor, who protected Bia, and it seems he's still protecting Bia till today. But can Mr. Bia appoint Yewo Ivor the army chief of staff of La Republique? He is now not even the presidential guard commander of Mr. Bia. He has been demoted and another person appointed in his position. But is that not the same person who in 1997, his uncle, late Palamfu, died because of him? And the wife said, I will never want to reconcile my problem with Yewo Ivor, for he betrayed my husband, and my husband is the person who sent Yewo Ivor to school. He was betraying our Southern Cameroonians because he was betraying us for his position, not knowing that he's a stateless person and will remain a stateless person. This guy that was sent to the Southern Cameroons to command the soldiers, I don't know, this guy from Manfred. What was the difference between this guy and the actions of John Garang? when he was sent to South Sudan by the Sudanese government about 30 or 40 years backward. Didn't he left to the south and came to join his brothers to fight against Sudan? Why didn't this guy that was a Southern Cameroonian send to kill his own brother? Why didn't he behave same or do same or did same like John Garang did? We are our problem. Look at the Philomena Yangs. He went to the United Nations as a Southern Cameroonian with his own people being killed. But he was proud to sit there and was talking about Gaza and Ukraine. And his people are dying. His brothers and sisters are dying every day in the hands of La Republique Cameroon. All along for the 1 year that Philomena Yang was was at the United Nations, he never mentioned anything about the situation that his own people are going through. What about Atangaji, who calls himself the Minister of Territorial Administration? What about John Gute, who calls himself Mr. Prime Minister, of which he's not he cannot even appoint his own private secretary in his office? We are our own traitors, thinking that the colonizer will ever appreciate us as if we are part of their country. We are just subordinates, and they are using you like they used Inoni. When Inoni outlived his usefulness, was thrown into prison. Philomena Yang is fortunate. I don't know when he will be thrown to prison, and Atangaji, not leaving out John Gute, for all of them are prisoners when their day will come. When you serve them and you've outlived a usefulness, they will send you to prison. But they should be careful, because La Republique will never reward them as citizens, and they too will never return to Southern Cameroons as citizens. For definitely the Southern Cameroons must be free, and these guys that I'm calling their names, they will never return to join me in the Southern Cameroons, for that land will be too small to accommodate all of us.
Bertrand Lisinga, make your last observation here before we get to the phone calls, please.
Yeah, my observation because in everything in life, people have different opinion. What we should be trying to do, we should understand that British Southern Cameroon is not Northwest and Southwest region, because we have regions in the United Kingdom. We have 12 regions. England have got 9 regions. Scotland have got 1 region. Wales, Northern Ireland have got 1 region, and Wales. So when I see people referring themselves in the Cameroons or Southern Cameroons that I'm a Southwestern, I say, how can you be an administrative unit? They use these things to divide us. I say, you can never be. Regions are administrative unit. In England, we have 12 regions, as I said. And we should know a region is for administrative purposes. No, you cannot be a region. You're either an English person, a Scottish person, an Irish person, or Welsh. So they created that British Southern Cameroon. We are British Southern Cameroon. We can have more region in what they call Northwest region. We can still have more region. The Southwest is a region. So when people sit, they use these things to try to say, oh, this one is Northwest and Southwest. It's a region. You can never be region. You're either British Southern Cameroon or you're your ethnicity. That's who we are. It's very important. Thank you.
All right. I don't know if Emma has anything to add there before we open the phone lines.
I think a lot has been said, and there's too much on the table to discuss in the time that we have. But we've navigated from the east to the west to central, all of these hot spots. Yet the international community, the African Union, the regional bodies are setting templated text. This process is well known for us. Whether it's the 10-year war in southern Cameroon, whether it's the 43-year-old long dictatorship deadly as it is of Paul Biya, we haven't seen much reaction from the international community, blips of interest here and there. Now, suffice to say, before we let those who are on the ground and experiencing the difficulties that we're discussing here have an opportunity to opine, let's say that we hope and pray that our children in the era of proxy leaders and government who serve the interests of foreign entities that have held capture to our security, economic, and other infrastructures. In fact, they do the arrangement for us. And this is leading to what we are experiencing, be it in Tanzania now or in La République du Cameroon. So I am much more interested to give time for those on the ground to have an opportunity to have a conversation either amongst themselves through your platform or with us here. And my heart and our prayers are out there with everybody who is experiencing the trauma under the current system.
Well, thank you both. I don't know if you still have the time. If you still have the time, please stay put in there. We'll open the phone lines, hear what our listeners they are thinking of. They may have questions to ask you, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to open the phone line, but before you call, make sure you shut down the volume of your television set and focus on the phone. If I pick your call and hear my voice in the background, I just drop and move to the next one. So make sure that you again shut down the volume of your phone before you call here so I can pick your phone. All right, let's get the line on the screen, please. Let's get to the first caller here. Hello.
Hello, please. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir. Where are you calling from, please?
I am calling from Ngoketunjia County.
Ngoketunjia County. All right. What is happening over there, sir?
Yeah, please, the ghost town was respected 100%. That is the most recent happening.
The ghost town did what? Was successful 100%?
Yes.
But I saw lots of movements in Douala, Yaoundé. Was it just some quarters or what?
I'm in Ngoketunjia County, about La République du Cameroon. We just get them on mobile phones, but in some areas, in most areas of La République, the ghost towns was effective.
Okay.
Where we saw them on phones, yes. Really, I want to say good evening to your guest, more especially to Mola Lisinge, whom I listened to one of his interactions with Professor Ngole. I really hail his temerity towards being very outspoken to him.
All right.
Comrade Chris, talking about La République du Cameroon, it is a complicated situation. As of present, there is a problem in Nigeria where they are accusing the Fulanis of mass killings of the Christians, and we have seen them with arms on social media. And it shouldn't be like, how do I put it, like a coincidence where those guys are vying to leave Nigeria for safe havens, and when Chiruma is really in need of these guys. I'm seeing a situation where these guys will find themselves into northern Cameroon. Those guys are part of those southern Cameroonians who joined Nigeria. They could find
yes, make your point so we can go to the next caller, please.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm simply saying that it will come up to a point where Chiruma, if he's unable to get Cameroon, he will preferably get the 3 northern provinces, where Cameroon now will be split into 3. that is La République du Cameroon, British Southern Cameroons, and also the Northern Cameroon. So it's a complicated situation.
All right. Many people have talked about that scenario. Let's wait and see what happens in the days ahead. Thank you for the call. Hello. 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 Okay, we lost that caller. The phone line is still open. Go ahead and call. Hello. Hello.
Hello. Good evening, Ombre Chris.
Good evening, sir. Can you elevate your voice a bit, please, so we can all hear
Yeah,
you?
thank you very much. I'm calling from Oyuka.
Moyoka, okay. 50 seconds, sir. What is on your mind?
Really, I really appreciate what you are saying there. And I want to tell you that you, like the voice of the people, we should make our voices ready to open the mountain, Kumbaro, because now it is very possible. All these things, everything like this, the Nadia goes down there, we are using this our side. And I want to assure you that today my sister who is in Douala told me that there was no school in their own area around the airport. So it is sure that the ghost town took place and maybe somewhere tomorrow. So I'm hoping that.
All right. Listen, thank you. I think I got what you're trying to say. The quality of your call is not very good. Thank you for the call.
Sorry, thank you.
All right. The phone line is open. Go ahead and call. Go ahead and call. The phone line is open now. You can call in. While I wait for the call, I just like to remind Ambazonians out there of this. All Ambazonia Town Hall coming up on Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern and 9 a.m. Central Time. It is open to everybody, and it is for you. It is for you to come with ideas on for the moment. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello, Congress, please.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, sir. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Douala.
From Douala. How was Ghost Town in Douala today?
Yes, perfectly, Congress, Chris. They call me. I'm a fighter. They call me from Baminda without knowing the politics that they want me to come up.
I'm sorry. They call you from Baminda. That what?
They called me from Baminda that there's something. When I reached there, they had to tell me that I should protect, I should go out. Any person who come out, I should fight. I'm a foot soldier. Mizam.
They told you that any person who comes out, you should fight?
Yes, I should fight as a number fighter because I have my colleague.
Who was giving you those instructions?
It was one of the governors.
Sorry, you are breaking. All right, I think we lost him. The connection is not good. I don't know for what reason any Ambazonian fighter will go fighting in Douala. That just doesn't make sense to me. You want to fight? Go and conquer Ambazonia from the Mongo and Matazem and Ekok. You have a lot of space there to fight. So I think that's where you should be. All right. Hello. 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 Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Bengui.
Wonderful. What is going on today in Mbengui?
No, they told you the town was totally ghost. Very ghost, very ghost.
Well, today was Monday. We expected that to happen in Ambazonia. I'm hoping that people are prepared to go about their businesses as usual beginning tomorrow.
Eventually, we should do so. We are not in La Republique, so we think that we have to evacuate on our activities tomorrow Tuesday. Personally, I'll be out tomorrow. And I think if I'm very well, maybe I'll be leaving from Bangui to Bamenda tomorrow on my bike.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I was reading somewhere the transport from Douala to Bamenda went up to 18,000 francs. How much is a normal fare from Douala to Bamenda?
Yeah, it should have been 6,000 francs only. Bamenda, Douala should be 6,000 francs. And then Bangui, Bamenda, it should be 1,500 francs. That's how it is.
Okay.
So I'm telling you, things are really... But, okay, come on, Chris.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, I want to tell you, we seem to be a little bit distracted by the fact that we're hearing from social media that there are some Amazonian fighters in Douala. And I want to abide with one of the co-panelists, the lady that is there. I don't know how she's called. I forget her name.
Dr. Emma?
Come again?
You mean Dr. Emma?
Yes, Dr. Emma. I'm very proud of her. I think we want to think that this is a moment. The time is now. We should remain very focused. To be honest, I am those who think that I support you wholeheartedly with the link that you are having with Chiroma, because I want to think that, with diplomacy, we don't lament. We don't think that this is a moment that Ambazona should think that we see this opportunity to do something. Even though there are certain areas in Ambazonia that are very active.
All right, listen. I think hold on there. A fellow just called me from Douala. I think he called just before you, and he said he is an Ambazonian fighter in Douala. He got there and they want him to fight. And I'm asking, what is an Ambazonian fighter doing in Douala? He got no business fighting there. They should instead be strategizing how to capture their territory. Seize the opportunity. Seize the moment. All right. Thank you for the call.
We see keep that information very doubtful.
But I also think until I heard from this guy, I was thinking it's propaganda coming from a lot of public administrators.
That's the fact. How can you think that Ambazonian fighter will live in Douala? I've been in Douala for 30 years. I'm now in my land, in Ambazonian land, in Bangui. But how do you think that Ambazonian fighters will live in Douala? And they say, Bonaberi and Kaya Yabasi, I've been living in Nibel. I know Douala very well. I school in Douala. So I know everything in Douala. How can it be possible?
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. Thank you for the call. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Where are you calling from?
I'm an Ambazonia from Yuka. I'm now in Virginia.
Which Virginia? USA?
USA, sir.
Okay, wonderful. All right. What is on your mind, sir?
Luz, I want to thank you so much for the wonderful work you are doing. Yeah. We keep praying that God continue to guide you on what you are doing, the information, the lectures you are giving the Ambazonians. We are happy for that. I want to continue to encourage. Last time, some months ago, you told us about PAD. I want to pray that PAD, that you went to Africa and met. We pray that it should keep going.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it. Hello. 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 All right. I don't know how somebody calls and then doesn't respond. Hello. Hello.
Hello, Comrade. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling
calling from Santa, sir.
Wonderful. What is going on in Santa?
No, Santa is fine. Santa is very fine.
Yes, sir. What is on your mind?
Yes, I want to talk about this issue of this fighter who said is in Douala. You know, as far as this crisis is being concerned, there are some other guys that they do pay them to do propaganda. I don't believe a fighter will leave Ambazonia to go in Douala to go and fight for a protest that is going on there. I don't believe that, sir.
I think you just wanted to hear what I would say, I guess.
Yes, I don't believe that. I think there are guys that are being paid out there to disrupt whatsoever thing that we are doing.
Right. Oh, I lost that caller. Hello. 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 I can hear you, sir. Where are you calling from? Hello. All right, bad connection there. I think with that, we're going to end the phone calls. Unfortunately, time constraints. I will get back to my panel here to see Samuel Thomas. Should Ambazonian fighters be fighting in La République du Cameroon?
They haven't liberated an inch of the southern Cameroon's territory. What should you be doing in Douala? Let La Provinces handle their trouble in La République Cameroon, while you handle your own situation in the southern Cameroons. So there is no point for any southern Cameroonian fighting in La République Cameroon. That is, what are you fighting there for, if I might ask? So we should allow the Burundian citizens to handle their situation. Any southern Cameroonian that is in La République Cameroon, please get back home. If you are a fighter, get back home, witness the situation back, and also your eyes and ears should be open to what is going on in La République, so that we can strategically plan on how to push these guys out of the southern Cameroons. No southern Cameroonian got anything to do with anything that is going on in La République Cameroon, in La République Cameroon.
All right. Metro Lissinger, please, your last thoughts.
You're muted.
Che Guevara, so sometimes you can never tell. Somebody can go straight to A2D and remove Mr. Biya and say British Southern Cameroon is free. So we never know. So thank you for being on your program once more, Mr. Chris, and I wish the panelists all the best. And my greetings to the people of the Cameroons.
All right. Thank you for being part of the show, sir. Dr. Emma, your last word.
Back here, Chris, during these difficult times for La République du Cameroon, in the art of war, right? There's always the scapegoating. So to the last caller, let's not forget that there have been militias, the Molinex boys, or otherwise called the Atanga boys.
Yeah.
And let's not forget Garbo as a consequence of these militias. So what else is new in the conversation when we see the littoral security chief issue a warning of Amber boys moving to fight something that, as you've just described, should not be in their interest, although they should be observant and watch. So to close this section, I think on this subject, we have to just stop, pause, and think. There's always the need to victimize and find a common enemy. The Southern Cameroonians in the construct of Cameroon has been the easy go-to to point to and say, les ennemis dans la maison, even when they have their own problems that they need to solve. So Cameroon is like a boxing ring with no referee at this point. So my dear brothers and sisters, children out there, don't fall for the propaganda. Stay safe. If you're in the mix of things, i.e. in La République, be observant. And as I said, should not miss the opportunity to find the best ways possible, prayerfully by peaceful means, to safeguard their freedom today and the freedom for generations to come. But freedom is never willingly given. And usually it's through revolutions. And at the heart of revolution is violence. But we pray God that that's not the portion for our brothers and sisters. But should it be that, we know who the threat to peace is. We know who the threat to peace are. They are the masterminds in Etudi. Thank you once more, Chris, for having me on your platform. Best of luck.
Thank you, Emma, for coming. Thank you, Maitre Lisenge and Sama Thomas. Let's look forward for another day, sir. All of you, good night. And to all of you out there watching and listening, I'd like to say good night to all of you. But before I do so, again, I'd like to remind you that we are having a very, very important and critical town hall on Saturday. I think this is the moment for Ambazonians to come together to figure out what they want, what they want and how they want it, given the opportunity that we see on the other side of the Mongo. So please, this town meeting will be very important. It will not be for us to lecture you. It will be for the leaders, the stakeholders, to listen to you. We will make sure that we bring most of the leaders into that town hall. Again, it will be a listening session. This is a critical moment, a moment we waited for at least 5 years in the course of this Ambazonian struggle. Let us make use of it before that moment of grace is out. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Again, I have some news that I am sitting on about Issa Chiroma that I cannot release. I just have to restrain myself from putting that out until I know the extent to which I can put out that piece of information. But I'm hoping that by the time it is morning here in Houston, Texas, I would have gotten clarity on what I can say and what not to say. But it is very, very important. Thank you once more for tuning in. I look forward to being back here tomorrow. God bless you all and good night.